Chapter 1, Rockefeller D. Xiatian Who? 3421. 3422. 3423. On the coast, a very strong young man was swinging a dumbbell that was 10 every time it is waved. There will be a gust of wind, rustling sound. The young man has been doing the same action for most of the day. Sweat flowed onto the ground along his angular muscles. The boy was tall and straight, like a pine tree, with short black hair that was neat and textured, each strand standing upright with vigor, as if it contained endless power and an unruly soul. His eyebrows were as black as ink, like two stretched willow leaves, with the tips of his eyebrows slightly raised, revealing a bit of innate heroism and unruliness. Under the eyebrows, there is a pair of eyes as dazzling as rubies, deep and distant, as if hiding endless stories and mysterious power. The red eyes are like a deep pool, exuding a mysterious and dangerous atmosphere in the darkness. Just a glance can make people fall into it and find it difficult to extricate themselves. The tall and straight nose bridge is like a steep mountain, standing in the center of his face, adding a sense of three-dimensionality and firmness to his face. His jawline is clear and his features are strong, as if he had been chiseled by a knife or an axe, showing his courage and determination. The skin on his face is tight and smooth, with a healthy wheat color, as if it is a gift from time and sunshine. 4,000, bump. When the boy swung his arms to 5,000, his arms could no longer hold on and the dumbbells in his hands fell to the ground. Phew! I'm so tired. The muscles in the boy's arms were trembling slightly. Very good, 300 more swings than yesterday. The young man clenched his fists and said excitedly. You have to know that this dumbbell is more than 10 times bigger than him, yet he can swing it 5,000 times with ease. This is obviously not something ordinary people can do. That's right, the boy traveled to a world where force is respected. And the boy is very familiar with this world. It was the Pirates King anime that he had watched since childhood in his previous life. He didn't expect to travel to the world of the Pirates King. But he seemed to have gotten dressed too early. Because when he was 13 he came across Rock's Pirate in the newspaper. The current timeline is only C Circle Calendar 1480. It was still more than 40 years before Luffy went out to sea. Xiatian was completely stunned when he heard the news. Anyone who has watched Pirates King knows that this world is not friendly and it might be invaded by pirates one day. Although there were far fewer pirates at that time than in later generations, you could never be sure that a group of pirates would come one day. What made Xiatian even more frustrated was that he was located in the second half of the Grand Line. This is the place that later generations called the New World. This made Xiatian even more frightened. Xiatian was already panicked after having just traveled through time and space to the body of a 13-year-old kid, but then he realized that he was in a new world. This caused Xiatian's sense of crisis to burst out all of a sudden. Fortunately, after a moment of panic, Xiatian quickly calmed down. As a mercenary in his previous life, although he felt that all this was extremely bizarre, he forced himself to accept this reality. As for why you want to be a mercenary, that's a bit strange. In my previous life, I heard from some idiot that I could make a lot of money by being a mercenary in the Middle East during the summer vacation. I don't know if I had a brain drain or what, but after a friend's introduction, I joined a group of mercenaries in a daze. From then on, his legendary career as a mercenary began. But as the saying goes, if you walk by the river often, you will get your feet wet. During another battle with Xiao Hizi, a melon grenade appeared beside him without him noticing. I don't know which idiot threw it. It exploded in an instant. Xiatian didn't even have time to react. He just felt his body being torn apart in an instant, and then he lost consciousness. After waking up, I traveled to this world. The original owner was unlucky. When he was 13 years old, he was fishing at the beach and was swept into the sea by the waves. He was then hit hard on the reef and fainted. He has taken over the magpie's nest. The island he was on was very small, with only a little over 1,000 people on the entire island, and just one small town. Located in the front half of New World, there were not many pirates, because not far from here was the Marine G8 branch. Although it was not the branches that were familiar to later generations, it gave Xiatian, who was only 13 years old, some sense of security. After becoming aware of her surroundings, Charlotte slowly began to recall her memories of watching the Pirates King in her previous life. You know, although he has been watching Pirates King since he was a child, he didn't have much time to watch it when he was a mercenary, and he almost forgot the previous plots. But I didn't expect that I could remember it so clearly now. This made Xiatian excited. With these memories, as long as I survive a little, it will be enough for me to survive until the end. Of course, Xiatian doesn't want to stay in hiding. He also wants to take risks and leave his name in this world. It's not Xiatian's character to be content with the status quo. His name in this life was Rockefeller D. Xiatian, and he was born in the year 1463 of the C Circle calendar. Xiatian didn't expect that the original owner was also from the D clan. After knowing that this was the world of king pirates, Xiatian began planned training. Xiatian, who has watched Pirates King, knows that this world is very dangerous, especially at the beginning of the age of exploration, which is even more dangerous. Pirates on the sea are like ants, spread all over the ocean. He doesn't want to die in confusion one day. In order to live a wonderful life, Xiatian also started his own training. He knew the Pirates King's training system. Kenjutsu, Taijutsu, Conqueror's Haki, Devil Fruit, Gunjutsu, etc. all of them can make people stronger. Xiatian is also seriously considering his next path. As a former mercenary, the first thing he considered was gunmanship. But the key point is that he doesn't even have a gun. Moreover, the guns in this world are actually flintlock rifles, and Xiatian immediately gave up this idea. Consider other ways. Devil Fruit. Xiatian passed it directly. Did the original owner leave him any devil fruit? Where did he get the devil fruit? Conqueror's Haki. Armament Haki's own 13-year-old physique is not enough. Observation Haki is something you can practice. Conqueror's Haki. It's a Conqueror's Haki that only 1 in a million can find, and I don't know if I have the qualifications. After these 3 systems were eliminated, only swordsmanship and physical skills were left. Xiatian knows a little about these. You can try it. After setting a goal, Xiatian started to make plans for himself. His first goal was to train in physical skills. His reference is Zoro, and the anime clearly records how Zoro was trained. For example, lower limb explosive power training can be done by jumping with dumbbells. Explosive power training for the upper body, swinging dumbbells with both hands, etc. Coupled with the training methods he learned as a mercenary to train physical skills and physique, this is very practical. As for swordsmanship, Xiatian had no idea, but he just needed to know how to swing the sword. He just didn't believe that he wouldn't be able to learn anything if he just kept swinging the sword. With Zoro's reference, Xiatian was given great determination. He just didn't believe that he, a time traveler, could be so bad. After having these ideas, Xiatian stayed in his thatched hut for 2 days, and after his injuries healed, he began training. Xiatian himself didn't expect that his injury would heal so quickly. He was able to get out of bed and jump around in just 2 days. This was probably the talent of D clan. You have to know that when he was rescued from the beach, several bones in his body were broken. After eating a few meals of meat, he miraculously recovered in 2 days. This made him realize that his body was not simple. And he also understands what kind of meat he eats. He is the king of the sea who bit off Red Hair's left arm at the beginning of Pirates King. Belongs to Sea Kings. This made Xiatian think of another way to become stronger, which is to eat. You can also become stronger by eating the meat of Sea Kings. You have to know that the strong guys in pirates are all big eaters. But it is not easy to hunt Sea Kings. With his 13-year-old body, he cannot defeat the Sea Kings. The most urgent task is still training. Once you have the ability to protect yourself, you can go to the sea to hunt Sea Kings. The island where Xiatian is located is very small. The only habitable area is the flat land at the port, and it is home to more than 1,000 people. Behind the port are huge mountains, which occupy 90% of the entire island. It can be said that there is no one living there. It is very suitable for Xiatian to practice and hunt. As an orphan, Xiatian has never known who his parents are since he was born. He only has a piece of paper with their names on it. Xiatian still relies on relief from the mayor's family to survive, but his life is very hard, otherwise the original owner would not have thought of fishing at the beach. But this time I was unlucky and was swept away by the waves. Walking out of the thatched house, Xiatian went into the vast mountains with a machete for chopping wood without looking back. From now on, he set a small goal for himself to become the conqueror of this mountain. At first, I drank mountain spring water when I was thirsty and ate various fruits when I was hungry. Several times I almost ate poisonous fruits. But at this time the mind will react in time, which is a bit like the perception of Spider-Man in his previous life. But coming to this world means knowing the future. Relying on the danger sensor, Xiatian can live a self-sufficient life in Yamanaka, although he can't say he is living like a fish in water. From time to time, I would design some traps to hunt prey to satisfy my hunger. He would also go down the mountain from time to time to exchange furs for weapons and the like. This year's training life did not make Xiatian feel lonely at all. On the contrary, he was very excited because he could actually feel himself getting stronger. Every morning when I wake up, I feel stronger than the day before. My body is no longer as frail as before, and it can no longer be knocked over by a wave. The most obvious feeling is that he can fight the wild boars in the mountains head-on. And every time I got injured, I would feel better the next day as long as I had a big meal. This made Xiatian feel the pervert of the Pirates King's world. This year's scientific training can no longer meet Xiatian's training requirements. He found that simply doing push UPS and running were no longer effective, and he no longer felt tired even if he did push UPS for a whole day. He went down the mountain with the precious animal skins collected from hunting this year. When we arrived at the port market, we saw a child about 1.5 meters tall holding goods that were taller than others, and the people around him dispersed. Isn't this Xiatian? Didn't he disappear? Some people I knew before began to wonder. There was no other way. Xiatian stayed in the mountains for a whole year and came down very rarely. He would only go back to purchase some necessities and rarely showed up. Even the mayor might not be able to find him. I watched Xiatian stop at a conspicuous place in the port as if no one was around, then spread a blanket and put the fur down, then sat quietly on the ground waiting for buyers. People around gathered around. Seeing Xiatian pointing fingers made Xiatian very annoyed. Buy it or not? If not, get out. Don't disturb me while I'm doing business. Xiatian yelled to the crowd. Everyone at the scene fell silent instantly, and everyone looked at Xiatian as if he were a fool. This made Xiatian even more annoyed. Boy, you come here to set up a stall without asking whose territory this is. As early as when Xiatian was carrying the furs, a group of people had their eyes on Xiatian. It's the boss of the Black Tiger Gang. When everyone saw the people from the Black Tiger Gang, they scattered and made way for them. Get out of the way, get out of the way. 4 or 5 thugs from the Black Tiger Gang dispersed the people who were surrounding them and opened a passage. A burly man over 2 meters tall, with a big gold chain around his neck and a big gold tooth in his mouth, and a somewhat rough appearance, walked out. Xiatian looked at all this with a frown, still a little surprised. He didn't expect that there would be gangs in a small town of only 1,000 people. But Xiatian is not afraid. Kid. What are you looking at? Don't you know that you have to pay a membership fee to set up a stall here? The leader of the Black Tiger Gang walked up to Xiatian and looked down at him, flipping over the fur that Xiatian had placed on the blanket. Wow! This fur is unusual, there are no wounds at all. The leader of the Black Tiger Gang randomly pulled out 2 furs, which looked like fox furs. That's right, these 2 furs are your share of the money. The Black Tiger Gang leader said this and prepared to withdraw his hand. Xiatian quickly grabbed the Black Tiger Gang leader's wrist and looked at him unkindly. The leader of the Black Tiger Gang looked at the small hand that was holding his wrist. He pulled hard but couldn't get it free. He immediately looked at Xiatian with a bad expression. Give me the money. 20,000 Baileys. Xiatian said lightly. Suddenly, after hearing the 2 unfamiliar words give money, the leader of the Black Tiger Gang laughed. He laughed very loudly, with his head tilted back. The younger brother next to him looked at the boss laughing crazily, not knowing why, but he laughed along too. Ha ha ha. Ah ha 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 ha. Give me money. I, Ah Fu, have never given money to buy anything in my entire life. Ah Fu said as he shook off Xiatian's hand. I thought I would throw this guy away, but he didn't move at all. It looks like you're here to cause trouble. Xiatian stood up, grabbed Ah Fu's wrist and spoke. After seeing this, Ah Fu couldn't help but wanted to take 2 steps back, but his hands were held tightly by Xiatian and he couldn't move away at all. Just when he was about to draw out the dagger with his right hand, Xiatian exerted force and Ah Fu staggered and fell to the ground. The speed was so fast that Ah Fu was pressed to the ground before he could even react. Boss! The younger brother next to him reacted. They drew out their daggers and batons and rushed towards Xiatian. Ahole, you damned brat, do you know who I am? I am Black Tiger Ah Fu, you are dead, you are dead. Ah Fu, who was pinned down by Xiatian, twisted his body frantically, trying to escape Xiatian's control. But Xiatian's foot held Ah Fu firmly like a pair of pliers, making any resistance of Ah Fu useless. This kid is dead. He has offended the Black Tiger Gang. There is no place for him in this town. Just when everyone felt sorry for the child, Xiatian stepped on Ah Fu and looked at the thugs rushing towards him, with a smile on his face. He slightly leaned sideways and knocked down 5 people with 3 punches and 2 kicks. Ouch! 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 5 people were wailing on the ground. This scene stunned Ah Fu, who was standing at Xiatian's feet. The people around who were watching the fun were also dumbfounded. This! Everyone was shocked by Xiatian's actions. He knocked down everyone with just 3 punches and 2 kicks, and it seemed as if he didn't even use any strength. Xiatian ignored everyone's surprise and squatted down, grabbed the gold necklace hanging on Ah Fu's neck, and pulled off the jewel ring on his finger. Then he punched Ah Fu in the mouth again. Ah Fu cried out in pain instantly. Large pieces of teeth fell out. Xiatian ignored Ah Fu, who was lying on the ground groaning, and picked up the bleeding gold tooth on the ground. He is very short of money now, extremely short of money. Woo! Ah Fu covered his bloody mouth and looked at Xiatian's actions with a painful expression. After looting the few people, he kicked Ah Fu, who was standing under his feet. Ah Fu flew out in an instant and lay down with his brothers. Get lost! Don't let me see you again! Xiatian's voice came, scaring the people around him and making them retreat. Even the younger brothers stood up, lifted up their boss and ran back. Seeing this scene, Xiatian couldn't help laughing. Ah ha 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 ha. Xiatian felt a little better. After all, he had been silent in the mountains for a year and hadn't spoken much during this year. Although he could endure the loneliness, it didn't mean he wasn't depressed. Back to the stall, I sorted out the furs and waited for buyers. Fortunately, there are still some people who like furs very much, and the most precious furs have all been sold. As for the remaining furs, they were all relatively rubbish. Xiatian saw that it was getting late and he needed to do some shopping. After gathering the furs, he headed to the blacksmith shop. Boss! I want to make iron tools. Xiatian shouted towards the inside of the blacksmith shop. I'm here. What do you need, sir? A big man came out with a big hammer in his hand. Here, this is the design drawing. Just build it according to it. When can it be delivered? Xiatian gave the blacksmith the drawings he had designed in advance. The blacksmith opened the drawing, looked at it, and frowned. Because the things that needed to be made were very strange, and were not the farm tools and swords that he usually made. My dear, what you want to make is a little difficult, and I don't have many materials. I'm afraid it will take a while, probably a month. What? A month? Xiatian frowned. Well, you make these first, and I'll find other shops to make the rest. Xiatian doesn't have time to wait for a month, at most he can only wait for a week. The blacksmith shop owner didn't say anything and agreed immediately. Then Xiatian paid the deposit and walked towards the next blacksmith shop. There were only 3 blacksmith shops in the town, so Xiatian asked each of them to be responsible for a certain part and they would receive the goods in a week. After placing the order, Xiatian walked towards the thatched hut he had not lived in for a year. The place where he lives is very remote, basically far away from the port. Looking at the thatched hut which had become tattered because it had not been lived in for a year, Xiatian had no choice but to just lie there. After all, how could it be worse than living in the mountains? Xiatian fell into a deep sleep as he lay on the bed. Boss! What should we do? We have lost face this time. If we don't teach that kid a lesson, will our Black Tiger gang still have any shame? A house that was not luxurious but very large, with 4 or 5 bruised-faced younger brothers standing nearby. Sitting on the sofa was Afu, the leader of the Black Tiger gang. Bang! Humph! I'm Black Tiger Afu. Anyone who dares not to give me face in this area is dead. I say, even God can't help. Afu's face was twisted, and there was wind coming out of his teeth when he spoke. Afu looked at the younger brother next to him and asked. I found out. He is an orphan who lives in a thatched cottage west of the town. Many people know him. It's not difficult to find out. After hearing this, Afu stood up, walked to a counter, pulled out a drawer, and took out an exquisite pistol. I'm going to kill him tonight, follow me. Afu went out with 4 or 5 younger brothers and an exquisite pistol, and walked towards the west. Soon Afu brought his men to the dilapidated thatched house. Looking at the thatched hut with leaks everywhere, I could just see Xiatian lying inside and snoring in the moonlight. Afu raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a ferocious smile. This is simply God's help. When he was 20 meters away from the thatched hut, Afu raised the musket in his hand and aimed at Xiatian. Without the slightest hesitation. Bang! The bullet fired. Xiatian, who was originally sleeping, only felt his hair stand on end, and a scene that he had imagined appeared in his mind. A reflexive tilt of the head. The bullet grazed my scalp. Xiatian was instantly startled and broke out in a cold sweat. Who? A loud shout came from the thatched hut. Xiatian rushed out of the door in an instant and saw Afu and his gang outside. Afu seemed to be stupid, staring blankly at Xiatian who rushed out of the house. He was clearly aiming at Xiatian's brain, so why did he tilt his head at the critical moment? After seeing Afu, Xiatian instantly understood what had happened, and then the anger in his heart couldn't help but burst out. Damn you, you BD! I spared your life during the day, but you dared to assassinate me at night. You're courting death! Xiatian shouted and rushed to Beth, and hit Afu in the chest with all his strength, which went straight through his chest. He watched Xiatian's arm pass through Afu's back. This scene directly scared everyone behind Afu. Hee. Afu wanted to speak, but the words were stuck in his throat and he couldn't utter a word. He only managed to hold on for 2 seconds before his head tilted and he died. Xiatian pulled out his bloody hand and shook it back and forth. A little disgusting. Then he looked at the others. The younger brothers who followed were all frightened silly, but some smart ones turned around and ran away. And these people are the ones that Xiatian pays special attention to. He jumped in front of them and didn't use any force, but kicked them all down with one kick. He grabbed the 2 men's ankles and dragged them back. But when Xiatian touched their bodies, the 2 people's psychological activities instantly appeared in his brain. It's all over, it's all over. I'm going to die, but my lovers will have pity. Damn it! Let me go, I will kill you. Xiatian glanced at the man who was about to kill him. Xiatian made up his mind, stopped and let him go. While he was still wondering why he was released, Xiatian stepped on his sternum and crushed it. Die in pain. The people around him were so scared that they trembled. Don't kill me, don't kill me. I have an 80-year-old mother and a newborn baby. Please be magnanimous and let me go. Don't kill me. Xiatian watched him kneeling on the ground, crying and telling about his difficult life. If you didn't know him, you would think he was the villain. Xiatian was speechless. Although he didn't know why he knew his inner thoughts, he also vaguely knew something. You are from the Black Tiger Gang, so do you know where your boss's treasure is? Xiatian began to ask questions. He kept them here just to find out the treasure their boss had hidden, even if it was a little less. Compared to the penniless Xiatian, even 10,000 Baileys would be worth the trip. Several people looked at each other. One of the guys with a bandage on his head raised his hand. Okay, you go ahead. My lord, boss, oh no. Ah Fu's finances are in his manor safe, you can go get. After hearing what he said, Xiatian grabbed his hand and started asking questions. Is it true? Before the little brother could answer, Xiatian already knew the answer. Then he instantly killed the 3 younger brothers who were still hesitating in front of this younger brother. Ah! The blood sprayed on the little brother's face, and he turned pale instantly. Don't kill me! Don't kill me! Looking at the man kneeling down and kowtow desperately begging for mercy. Get up and take me to your boss's house. Charlotte said as she looked at the only man who survived. Yes, yes, yes. The man felt slightly relieved after hearing Xiatian's words. As long as you still have value, you will not die. He quickly gathered his composure, stood up tremblingly, and led the way for Xiatian. I dare not play any tricks. The two soon arrived at the headquarters of the Black Tiger Gang, which was Ah Fu's home. He ignored the other side's thugs and walked in on his own. Just as someone was about to ask a question, he was stopped by the person next to him. Signal him to look back. As a result, he saw the subordinates who often followed the boss, covered in blood, trembling behind Xiatian. After seeing him, the younger brother immediately understood that his boss was probably gone. After all, they all knew what the boss was doing outside. Is this the place? Xiatian said, looking at the safe in front of him. Yes, that's right. This is it. The younger brother, covered in blood, said tremblingly. Do you have a key? Xiatian asked. No, Ah Fu kept the key, and we didn't know about it. After hearing this answer, Xiatian frowned. I walked to the safe and touched the material of the safe. Go cut it open. Xiatian looked at his younger brother and gave instructions. He decided to recruit these younger brothers and use them for his own purposes. This way you don't have to live a miserable life. Yes. The younger brother nodded quickly. By the way, what's your name? Work for me from now on. The Black Tiger Gang will be handed over to you. Can you serve me? The younger brother, who was originally trembling, instantly became overjoyed when he heard such good news. Don't worry, boss. My name is Joss. I will take good care of these people for you and let all the resources of the Black Tiger Gang serve you. Joss immediately expressed his loyalty. Okay, go down and come back to me after you've finished your work. Xiatian waved his hand and asked him to go down. Sitting on this sofa, Charlotte sank into it completely. Xiatian just felt exhausted and fell asleep. Early the next morning, Xiatian opened his eyes sleepily. What he saw was several servants in maid uniforms coming over with toiletries and helping Xiatian wash up. Wait until everyone has left. Corruption, corruption. Xiatian lay on the sofa and sighed. The comfortable sofa and the beautiful maid were all trying to wear down his will. No, I have to become stronger and more powerful. Xiatian stood up, pumping his fist. When we arrived at the yard, we saw a dozen thugs in black suits standing in the yard. Hello, boss. A dozen thugs in black suits were bent over at 60 degrees. Xiatian waved his hand. He didn't care about his subordinates at all. He let Xiao Si take charge of the Black Tiger Gang in order to provide himself with a comfortable environment. When he is 17 or 18 years old, he will go out to sea for adventure. We'll see whether we become pirates or marines when the time comes. During this period, I will train myself and polish myself. Boss, everyone from the Black Tiger Gang is here, and everyone submits. Joss approached and said. Well, from now on these people are under your charge. I will come to you if I have any problems. Xiatian said to Joss. Yes, boss. Joss said happily. Xiatian was not afraid that Xiao Si would have second thoughts. In the face of absolute strength, all the fancy things were just paper tigers that he could blow to pieces with one punch. What's more, he also has this observation haki. Xiatian had not expected that observation haki had awakened unexpectedly yesterday. Moreover, his observation haki can actually predict danger. Isn't this predicting the future? And when I was in contact with someone yesterday, I could actually hear what was in his heart. Isn't this mind reading? His observation haki actually has the ability to predict the future and read minds, which are the abilities of Katakuri and the Red Count. He actually possesses them at the same time. This is going to be amazing. I didn't expect that my talent for observation haki was so strong. It should be that the two souls merged into one, which enhanced his perception and made his senses extremely strong. Therefore, the awakened seeing and hearing color is also very strong. It seems that this body of mine is not simple. As expected of a member of the D clan, not a single one of them is simple. Thinking about the previous year of training in the mountains, no matter how badly injured I was, as long as I had a full meal and a good night's sleep I could be full of energy the next day. It was really amazing. Don't waste your talent. Xiatian started training. Because the equipment was not ready, Xiatian could only do some basic training. More than a week passed in a flash. Xiatian returned to the mountains again. The life of a savage began. The affairs of the Black Tiger gang were handed over to Joss. And he started his training again. Xiatian was not in a hurry to train his swordsmanship, but instead kept training his physical fitness with weights. I started with 1 ton, then slowly increased the load, running around the mountain for the entire day without taking a rest, running for my life. In the anime that Xiatian remembers, Garp, in order to practice boxing, punched 8 mountains to pieces before he came out. Xiatian also holds himself to this goal. Every day I either run with weights, jump with weights, or swing a huge dumbbell with one hand. Train physical strength, leg strength, and arm strength respectively. Train your body in all aspects. That crazy training of ultimate scared everyone who was still watching Xiatian. Watching Xiatian training with a rock that is 10 times bigger than himself. They didn't understand how that tiny body could withstand such a great force. From then on, almost everyone in the town knew that a monster had appeared in their town. That is Xiatian. As a result, the rumor spread further and further, becoming more and more outrageous. Have you heard? That Xiatian is the incarnation of Hercules. My cousin went hunting in the mountains and happened to see Xiatian holding up a rock that was 10 times bigger than himself and running around for fun. No way, there are obviously 20 times more stones jumping there. 20 times? But I remember it should be 50 times. Nonsense. Xiatian must be the offspring of a god born in the mortal world. He possesses the power of a demigod. As the rumor became more and more outrageous, it gradually turned into a story. Merchants coming and going heard the news and treated it as a story. Moreover, it spread very widely and was passed down. I'm afraid Xiatian didn't know that his fame had spread in the name of the story. Call. Quick. Quick, serve the food. Xiatian yelled at the servants. The servants had already prepared sumptuous meals for Xiatian. Xiatian sat on the chair and madly poured food into his mouth. Xiatian swallowed all the barbecue on the table, including the bones, leaving only an empty plate. More than a dozen plates of barbecue instantly swelled Xiatian's stomach, but it was all digested in a short time. At this time, hot white steam was coming out of Xiatian's body and floating above his head. Joss, who was reporting on his work nearby, was so stunned that his voice became weaker involuntarily. In fact, Xiatian didn't listen to what he said. He didn't care about the Black Tiger Gang, an organization that was not presentable. He kept him just to serve himself better. After the maid went back and forth several times, Xiatian finally felt full and full of strength. He jumped down from the chair, which was more than 10 meters high and at a very fast speed. Xiatian punched a tree that 6 people were hugging. Bang! With one punch, the 100-meter-long tree was instantly broken into 2 halves by Xiatian's fist. Ah! Seeing that the big tree was about to fall, and the place where the maids were standing, the maids were all frightened out of their wits. After seeing this, Xiatian jumped up again and kicked the tree crooked, sending it flying more than 10 meters away. Bang! There was a puff of dust in the distance. I don't know to what level my strength and explosive power have reached in the pirates' world. After all, there is no level division in Pirates King, but in the previous life, when surfing the forum, some netizens divided the realms themselves. From a miscellaneous soldier, with some strength, colonel, can use some moves, commodore, proficient in 2 or more of the 6 styles, rear admiral, proficient in 4 or more of the 6 styles, and any one of the 2-color haki, vice admiral, proficient in the 2-color haki and covering the whole body, quasi-admiral equals Shishibukai vice admiral, 4 emperors. Although the water friends were divided in this way in the previous life, there are some very buggy places, so this realm division can only be used as a reference. Anyone who believes it is a fool. After all, there is a monster named Vice Admiral Garp in Vice Admiral, and there is also a fat Otaku Mariah in Shishibukai and the eagle-eyed Mihawk who competes with the 4 emperors every day. In short, there are many unreasonable places, so it can only be used as a reference. Another 3 years passed. Xiatian has not been in the mountains for the past 3 years. This year Xiatian is already 17 years old. After practicing taijutsu for several years, Xiatian's body had reached a point where there was no further improvement. His age was limiting his growth. But Xiatian did not stop on the road to becoming stronger, but went to the seaside. After learning to swim, Xiatian practiced swordplay in the sea every day. He had read many novels in which the protagonist Kakuzu practiced swordplay in the water. Xiatian didn't know anything about kendo, but he had seen Zoro practice swordplay. Although what he said was vague, Xiatian remembered that nothing could escape being cut. With this belief, Xiatian swung his sword at the beach or in the deep sea every day, repeating the same movements every day in order to reach the state of being able to cut through anything. Call. Xiatian climbed up to the shore. The pain in his body and the feeling of oppression in his mind made it impossible for Xiatian to calm down. Every time after practicing sword, I feel irritable and can't calm down. It has been 4 years since he traveled through time. During these 4 years, he has been training hard every day. His physical fitness has reached the peak of his age, and his growth has begun to slow down. This made Xiatian very distressed, but since his physical strength slowed down, he decided to practice sword skills. As a result, after practicing for a year, his strength was probably only as good as Zoro's when he first went to sea. I just can't achieve that feeling of being able to cut through anything. A knife hitting a stone will only leave a shallow mark on the stone, and it will never give rise to the feeling of moving forward. Boss. This is the sword you asked for. When Xiao Si saw Xiatian coming up, he quickly handed him a towel and a basket of swords. This was custom made by Xiatian for Xiao Si. He was now using too many swords during sword practice, with one breaking almost every few days. So Xiatian asked his men to deliver a sword to him every few days. This matter will be handed over to Joss, and Joss will also report the intelligence of the town and provide newspapers at this time. Has anything happened recently? Xiatian asked casually while looking at the newspaper. As soon as Xiatian got the newspaper, he saw that Rock's pirate destroyed a kingdom. Looking at the bounty above, Xiatian's pupils shrank. They were all characters from the anime in his previous life. See Circle Calendar 1479. Rock's Dzebek has a bounty of 1.38 billion Baileys. He is the captain of the Rock's pirate. He is guilty of heinous crimes and his life or death is not a matter of concern. Whitebeard Edward Newgate, captain of the Rock's pirates first squad, is a user of the shock fruit ability. His bounty is 840 million berries. He is guilty of such heinous crimes that his life or death is not a consideration. The captain of the second squad, Golden Lion Shiki, is a user of the lion fruit ability. His bounty is 790 million berries. He is guilty of a heinous crime and his life or death is not a matter of concern. Captain of the 3rd Division, Charlotte Linlin, the user of the soul fruit, with a bounty of 570 million berries, she is guilty of a heinous crime and her life or death is not a matter of concern. Captain John of the 4th Division has a bounty of 360 million Baileys. He is guilty of a heinous crime and his life or death is at stake. Captain Akoku of the 5th Division has a bounty of 350 million berries. He is guilty of a heinous crime and his life or death is at stake. Silver Axe, captain of the 6th Division, has a bounty of 330 million berries. He is guilty of a heinous crime and his life or death is irrelevant. Captain of the 7th Division, Kurozumai Higurashi, user of the clone fruit, with a bounty of 120 million berries, his crime is extremely heinous and he can be killed regardless of his life or death. Vice Captain, Kurozumai Semimaru, user of the barrier fruit, with a bounty of 110 million berries, his crime is extremely heinous and he can be killed regardless of his life or death. Trainee Kaido, 30 million Baileys, must be captured alive. This newspaper is full of people Xiatian is familiar with. Boss, the number of pirates has exploded in recent years, all because of this Rock's pirate. They are in the second half of the Grand Line, which is where we are, burning, killing, looting, and attacking world government member states and marine branches. Even the Marines were helpless as they attacked from all directions with Honeycomb Island as the core, and they almost captured the deep part of the second half of the Grand Line. If Marine doesn't stop it, our island will probably be destroyed. Joss said worriedly. What he said was true. Their island was located in the middle of the second half of the Grand Line. Although there was a Marine G8 branch nearby, there was no guarantee that the pirates would not attack. After hearing this, Xiatian returned the newspaper to Xiao Si. Don't worry too much. There's a Marine branch nearby. No pirates would have the guts to mess around here. Go down. Come back to me if you have any problems. Xiatian waved his hand, not caring at all about Joss's worries. Bang! 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 There was a sudden explosion. What's going on? Xiatian looked towards the place where the explosion sounded. There was a cloud of smoke coming from the distant port. Not good. Bad thoughts popped up in both people's minds at the same time. Let's go. Let's go check it out. Xiatian ran towards the port. While running, I opened the observation haki and started to check. In an instant, a three-dimensional image appeared in Xiatian's mind, with Xiatian as the center, and the surrounding area appeared in Xiatian's mind. Oh no, it's the pirates! Xiatian saw in his mind's eye 3 pirates' ships appearing in the harbor. 3 ships flying the pirates' flag were anchored at the shore firing shells into the harbor. Captain! We can make a lot of money this time. There are many merchant ships docked at this port, and they have no ability to resist. We will make a lot of money this time. A pirate wearing a turban and holding a knife said while looking towards the port. Ka ha 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 ha. Guys, come on, rob this town. The pirates wearing a captain's hat pointed at the town with a big knife in his hand and shouted. Kill, kill, charge. All the women and treasures are mine. The pirates on the 3 ships strode towards the port, with expressions of greed and excitement on everyone's face. When the people at the port saw that they were pirates, they ran desperately towards the town, and some even jumped into the sea. Help! Pirates are coming ashore, run! A hole, stop squeezing and let me pass! Countless cries and curses filled the crowded port. Countless shells flew over their heads and hit the houses, which instantly caught fire. The scene became more and more chaotic. Help me! Help me! There were cries for help, cries, and children standing there in a daze, at a loss. Ah! A scream was heard. Everyone looked in the direction the sound came from. I saw a dock worker being knocked to the ground by a pirate's knife. Run! The people who were originally crowded in the port suddenly went crazy and rushed forward desperately. Suddenly the port was in chaos, with people trampling everywhere. Countless people lost their lives as a result. This resulted in countless people being trampled to death even though the pirates only killed 1 person. Ha ha ha, Captain, it's our turn. The first mate said as he looked at the harbor where his pirates had cleared a space. Bang! A hole, you want me to say it? The captain slapped the first mate and walked away with an arrogant step. Lao Zi is the captain of the giant bear pirates, Alexander Xiatian, a great pirate with a bounty of 45 million berries. If you want to live, hand over your treasures. Alexander Xiatian walked up to the platform and shouted. It instantly drowned out the noise at the scene. Everyone looked at Xiatian with horror. Standing at the bow, he was more than 3 meters tall, like a moving iron tower. His upper body was a coarse cloth shirt stretched tight by his muscles, the corners of which were casually tucked into worn leather pants. There was a thick hemp rope tied around his waist, on which hung several strange-shaped medals. His arms were thicker than an average man's thighs, his muscles were as hard as rock, and his skin was covered with crisscross scars, which were traces of battles at sea. His broad face had hard lines, and his thick beard grew wildly, almost covering most of his face, revealing only a pair of deep-set and fierce eyes. His messy hair was blown wildly by the sea breeze, and he had a huge gold earring hanging on his ear, which swayed gently with his movements, exuding a full sense of banditry. This sentence was also heard by Xiatian who had just arrived. 45 million Baileys. Xiatian recited silently. At this time, Bailey doesn't want to depreciate as much as it would in 20 years. If converted to 40 years later, he would probably be a pirate's worth hundreds of millions. Seeing that everyone at the scene was stunned by him, Alexander Xiatian laughed out loud. Ka ha ha ha, guys, move all the treasures in this town out to me. Anyone who dares to resist will be killed. Alexander Xiatian waved his hand. Rush! More than 100 pirates rushed into the town with knives and guns. Let's see who dares. Xiatian couldn't sit still anymore, so he jumped out from the roof and killed the pirates who were rushing in the front with 2 punches. Who is it? Alexander Xiatian, who heard the voice, looked at the young man who suddenly appeared and then burst into laughter. Ka ha 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 ha. Little brat, you dare to stop me? Go drink your mother's milk. The other pirates also laughed after hearing this. Xiatian frowned. Without saying a word, he jumped up and disappeared from everyone's sight, then flashed behind the 2 minions. 2 punches, bang. Wow! The 2 minions instantly vomited blood and fell to the ground. Alexander Xiatian frowned instantly, looked at Xiatian, and then became furious. Kill him for me, boys. Alexander Xiatian pointed a 2-meter-long sword at Xiatian. Kill! Charge! More than 100 pirates rushed towards Xiatian, holding flintlock rifles and knives. Bam! 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 The bullets shot towards Xiatian quickly. But it was too easy for Xiatian, who had the observation haki. He quickly shook his head and body, and dodged the bullets. Alexander Xiatian frowned instantly when he saw it. He had a bad feeling that this kid would be difficult to deal with. After seeing so many pirates, Xiatian was not panicked at all. Instead, he plunged into the group of pirates and waved his sword wildly. In an instant, the pirates who were close to Xiatian had their limbs and arms flying everywhere. Countless pirates wailed. Xiatian ignored the cries and focused on killing. Because in the process of killing, he felt the long-lost pleasure. This kind of killing made him very excited. The previous depression and repression were perfectly vented. Kill! 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 Xiatian's eyes were red and the weapon in his hand was covered in blood. Many pirates were intimidated by Xiatian's momentum and did not dare to move forward. But their lack of initiative does not mean Xiatian is not proactive. More than 100 pirates were unable to cause any harm to Xiatian. Xiatian rushed into the group of pirates like a tiger into a flock of sheep, hacking and killing indiscriminately. Damn it! Alexander Xian showed an angry expression when he saw that most of his men were dead or injured. He had painstakingly gathered these crew members over 3 or 4 years, and now most of them were lost on such a small island. Compared to Alexander Xian's anger, those who were still at the port were all surprised when they saw Xiatian killing people as easily as chopping melons and vegetables. They were all staring in disbelief that it was Xiatian who did it. Cool! Xiatian let out a long howl toward the sky. Instantly, this aura spread out to the surroundings with Xiatian as the center. After being exposed to this aura, the pirates and civilians all fainted on the ground. Not moving. This scene made Alexander Xian's eyes bulge out. This is Conqueror's Haki. How can this kid have Conqueror's Haki? As an old pirate who has been working on the sea for 3 or 4 years, how could Alexander Xian not know Conqueror's Haki? And Xiatian is still addicted to killing. Regardless of whether they fell to the ground or not, they were harvesting madly. Alexander Xian was completely terrified. Jose, who arrived late, was also shocked by the powerful Conqueror's Haki. He swayed and couldn't stand steadily. What's going on? Joss held onto the pillar beside him and looked towards the direction of the battle with difficulty. He saw a scene that he would never forget. His own boss, the crazy killer pirates, was the only one standing around him and a 3-meter-tall man on the platform. And this 3-meter-tall man was looking at Charlotte in shock. With one swing of the knife, the last pirate's body was separated. After killing these pirates, Xiatian howled to the sky. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. A red Conqueror's Haki mixed with lightning once again impacted the surroundings. Now Joss completely lost consciousness. It instantly enveloped the port and half of the town. Alexander Xian also half-crouched with his knife in hand to resist Xiatian's momentum. Chapter 7, The Destruction of the Giant Bear Pirates. After killing the last pirate's minion, Xiatian's originally scarlet eyes became clear and regained their former spirit. And the endless Conqueror's Haki also disappeared because of it. Alexander Xian stood up after feeling the pressure disappear from his body. He looked at Xiatian with fear in his eyes. You? Who are you? Alexander Xian said with a trembling voice. My name is Rockefeller D. Xiatian. Xiatian smiled slightly. Xiatian now just felt relaxed. The depression he had been holding back for a long time was finally released, making him feel very happy. Looking at the captain of the pirates, Xiatian raised the sword in his hand and looked at him. You will be my first step into the sea. Xiatian looked at him indifferently, his eyes full of infinite confidence. Damn it! Stop bragging, little brat. I want you to pay for the lives of my crew members. Alexander Xian reacted quickly and rushed towards Xiatian with a big knife. Clang. A loud metallic collision sound was heard. Xiatian blocked Alexander Xian's full-strength blow with one hand. Then he exerted a little force and knocked away Alexander Xian's knife. Then he swung the sword very quickly. In an instant, a long wound appeared on Alexander Xian's chest. Ah! Alexander Xian was chopped away and fell to the ground screaming. The blood from his chest soaked his clothes and a large amount of blood flowed out. Alexander Xian stood up and looked at Xiatian fiercely. Then he threw the big knife in his hand. Just when Xiatian thought he was going to surrender, Alexander Xian roared. Ah! You forced me to do this! Alexander Xian roared, his body swelled. The whole person has undergone a huge change. Roar! Demon fruit power! Xiatian was surprised. He didn't expect that this pirates was a demon fruit power. Looks like just an ordinary Zoan user. That's right. Laozi is the captain of the Giant Bear Pirates, the Giant Bear Alexander Xian. Are you scared, kid? If you kneel down and beg for mercy now, Laozi will mercifully let you go. Ha ha ha. The huge black bear laughed at Xiatian. The wound on my chest caused by Xiatian was healing rapidly. Xiatian was amazed when he saw this scene. As expected of Zoan, your recovery ability is strong. However, you don't think you can beat me with just a devil fruit, do you? Xiatian said as he swung the bloodline on his sword. Then he ignored the other party and rushed forward in one step. The sword flashed. Xiatian's sword slashed towards the opponent's neck. The giant bear Alexander Xian did not flinch either, and raised his huge paws to slap Xiatian. The collision of sword and bear paw. Xiatian was blocked by this huge force. Xiatian's sword barely cut through the skin. Roar. Alexander Xian gained confidence when he saw that his opponent could not break his defense. As Xiatian just put away his sword, he rushed forward with his huge body. Xiatian quickly held his sword horizontally to block. Bang! Snap! Xiatian was pushed back 3 or 4 steps. The sword in his hand also broke. The huge impact just now directly broke Xiatian's sword. This scene happened to be seen by the giant bear Alexander Xian. Ka ha 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 ha! Little brat, I don't think you can survive in my hands without you. The giant bear Alexander Xian laughed wildly. It seems like you still haven't mastered swordplay this year. Xiatian looked at the sword with only the hilt left, shrugged, and threw the hilt in his hand away. He twisted his neck and flexed his fists. Looks like we'll have to fight hand to hand. Xiatian looked at the wild bear Alexander Xian, who was looking at him with fiery eyes. With a tap of his toes, he jumped more than 10 meters away in an instant, came in front of the giant bear Alexander Xian, and punched him. Bang! The giant bear was instantly knocked down by Xiatian among the cargo. Xiatian's whole body was emitting hot white steam, and it was obvious that he was serious about this. There was no time for the giant bear to catch its breath. When the giant bear was blown away and roared, Xiatian rushed forward again. As he was still trying to stand up, he was punched in the jaw. The giant bear Alexander Xian didn't even have a chance to resist and spat out a large mouthful of blood. And there seemed to be something in the blood. Only the giant bear knew that it was his own tongue. The giant bear was hit on the jaw by a punch and flew backwards. Fly into the sky. Xiatian jumped again, came above him, and kicked the giant bear's head hard. This kick seemed to be as powerful as splitting Mount Hua, and it fiercely smashed the giant bear Alexander Xian into the sea. As demon fruit power, the sea is their nemesis. Xiatian's chop directly turned Alexander Xian back to his original state. Xiatian dived into the sea and fished out the unconscious Alexander Xian. He picked up a long knife on the ground and chopped it at Alexander Xian's head. Blood splattered instantly and the body was split into 2. Xiatian mentioned that Alexander Xian's head was hanging on the flagpole nearby. The battle ended very quickly, but the scene was indeed very chaotic. Pirates killed by the Xiatian and those knocked unconscious by the Xiatian conquerors were lying in the crowded harbor. Xiatian didn't care when they woke up. After hanging up the giant bear's head, he walked towards the 3 parked pirates' ships. He wanted to see if there were any good things in these 3 pirates' ships. If there is a devil fruit, he will make a profit. No matter what kind of devil fruit it is, it can be sold for 100 million. If it is a very good one, it can be sold for more than 10 or 20 billion. But Xiatian was obviously overthinking these things. After searching the 3 pirates' ships, there was no oil or water, only a pitiful 10 million baileys. And the more than 70 slaves in the basement of the cabin who were about to be sold. Xiatian was a little surprised when he used his observation haki to sense that there was someone else in the cabin. My conqueror's haki didn't even reach here? Also, his conqueror's haki has just awakened and may not have affected here. However, when sensing, their breath was very weak. It's like not eating for many days. When Charlotte walked into the cabin, she saw that everyone in the gloomy cabin was in tattered clothes, with shackles on their hands and feet. Are there any still alive? When Xiatian's voice appeared in the cabin, someone looked up at Xiatian at the cabin entrance. The appearance of a young man in this quiet cabin seemed particularly strange. What's more, the young man was standing there covered in blood. Everyone was so scared that they subconsciously shrank back. Xiatian looked around, but no one responded. Oh no! I just got a cold shoulder. Xiatian turned around and wanted to leave. Big, adult. First class. A rather panicked female voice sounded. Xiatian turned and looked over. Although the cabin was extremely dark, Xiatian could still tell who was speaking at a glance. Xiatian turned and looked at the girl, quietly waiting for his reply. Sir. We are from the kingdom of Walton. We were invaded by the giant bear pirates and became slaves. Please save us. A clear female voice sounded from the corner. Slaves. Xiatian said lightly. Then he walked up to the little girl. Although the girl's face was covered in dust, it still couldn't hide her beautiful face. No wonder they were captured and made into slaves. Xiatian murmured as he looked at the girl in front of him. The girl's face turned slightly red when Xiatian stared at her. After all, Xiatian has a handsome face, a strong physique, and because of the battle, his clothes are slightly torn, revealing the muscles he has trained for many years. Xiatian looked at the lock, then pulled it and the lock broke. Xiatian opened the door and let the little girl out. Turns out there was more than one girl in there. 4 more girls came out one after another. I killed all the pirates up there. You are free now. The 5 girls' originally gloomy eyes immediately brightened. Xiatian ignored them and walked to all the cells one by one, breaking the locks on them one by one. The prisoners inside came out one after another. After doing all this, Xiatian walked out with his hands in his pockets. Since we come across these poor people, there's no harm in saving them. He hated slaves anyway. After leaving the dim cabin, Xiatian took a deep breath. He just felt a moment of despair in the cabin. Xiatian believed that he was not wrong. With his special observation ability, he could feel their despair. This feeling is not good. No wonder Patrick Redfield likes someone so much. Having the ability to read minds makes people empathize with him. Call. Took a light breath. Walked out of the cabin and returned to the deck. Xiatian grabbed the box full of Baileys and walked off the pirate's ship. Adult. Just when Xiatian was about to go down, the familiar female voice sounded again. Xiatian turned around and looked at them with a frown. What's wrong? You are already free, so why do you want me to do anything? Xiatian was a little impatient. He just wanted to leave here as soon as possible. The girls looked at each other. He immediately knelt in front of Charlotte. Please take us in, sir. We are willing to work like slaves to repay you. Still the same girl as before. Looking at the strong emotions expressed by these 5 girls, Xiatian had a headache. He could feel that they meant it sincerely. Why? Xiatian asked. After hearing his words, everyone fell silent, and a feeling of sadness was revealed. This made Xiatian very upset again. He found that having too strong a sense of observation was not a good thing. Sir, we are homeless. Our kingdom was often attacked by pirates because we could not pay the heavenly gold. Now the whole kingdom has been destroyed by the giant bear pirates. The island has become a dead island. Only we are left. The pirates left us because of our looks and wanted to sell us to slave traders. Please take us in. The girl knelt humbly in front of Xiatian and cried bitterly. Xiatian was also infected by her strong emotions. You get up first. Xiatian walked forward and helped them up. What are your names? How old are you? Xiatian asked. After listening to the stories of several people, Xiatian also learned about their experiences. The one he just talked to was the princess of the Walton Kingdom, Walton Ellie, who was 16 years old this year, with long golden hair and ruby eyes. What Xiatian didn't expect was that she was actually the user of the paramecia medicine fruit. On her left is her sister Walton Irene, who is 15 years old. She has the same long golden hair as Ellie, sky blue eyes and pointed ears, like an elf. After Ellie's explanation, we learned that Irene is a half-elf, born to her father and an elf. On the right is a woman with short red hair that reaches her shoulders. She is Ellie's bodyguard and grew up with them. Ella is 18 years old this year. She is quite powerful and has the strength to cut through iron with her sword. The 2 people behind her are twins. They are Aries maids and have a pair of horns on their foreheads. After some explanation, we know that they are demons like Kaido. The one with long red hair is the elder sister Feng, who is 16 years old this year, and the one with long blue hair is the younger sister Ling, who is 15 years old this year. After knowing their identities, Xiatian was so happy. He didn't expect that although he didn't find the devil fruit this time, he gained a paramecia demon fruit power, a swordsman, and 3 special races. Xiatian felt that this trip was a great success. Okay, you guys will follow me from now on. Be my maid. My name is Rockefeller D. Xiatian, and you guys can call me young master from now on. Xiatian said calmly. It's the young master. The 5 people said in unison. Xiatian nodded with satisfaction. It is not a loss for me to have these 5 beautiful little girls as my maids. Anyone who can be sold as a slave must be pretty good. Come with me. As for other people, Xiatian doesn't care. He is not their parents, he has to rely on himself if he wants to live. Hey! Wake up, wake up! Xiatian walked up to Joss and kicked him. Jose has not woken up since he was knocked unconscious by his own conquerors. Not to mention Joss, even the others were lying on the dock, unconscious. I didn't expect that my first awakening of Conqueror's Haki would be so powerful. Xiatian was secretly shocked. After kicking Joss's waist, Joss finally woke up in a daze. Boss! Boss! Joss was startled when he saw Xiatian, then looked around. Hi! Where are the pirates? Jose looked around in panic but didn't see any pirates, only corpses and the town's name lying on the ground. Xiatian pointed towards the giant bear's head. Joss looked in the direction Xiatian's finger pointed. His eyes bulged out instantly. The pirates who were just killing everyone had their heads cut off and hung on flagpoles. This. Boss, did you do this? Joss pointed at the head and said tremblingly with some disbelief. Xiatian nodded. Why is my little brother so useless? Hurry up, these 5 people are now in your hands. They will become my maids, so you need to train them well. After Xiatian finished speaking, he no longer paid attention to the waist Xiao Si. He trained with me for 3 years, but he couldn't even support Conqueror's Haki. How could I have raised this useless person? The more he thought about it, the angrier he became, so Xiatian went straight back to his mansion. When Xiatian arrived home, Joss also came over with 5 little maids. Joss, you're here just in time. Go prepare something to eat for me. I need to replenish my energy. Xiatian looked at Joss with those indifferent eyes and said. And Joss led the 5 maids to the kitchen very respectfully. Although this Joss didn't have much ability, He handled things quite to his liking. This is also the reason why he was able to stay with Xiatian for 4 years. Xiatian sat on the sofa and began to recall the battle just now. I awakened Conqueror's Haki with great joy. This feeling makes my thoughts very clear, and I feel extremely comfortable and happy. That was the feeling that one gets after going on a killing spree. Do I feel good because of killing? That would make me an executioner. When did I become so perverted? Xiatian said, touching his chin. Ever since the giant bear pirates invaded the town and were all killed by Xiatian. The whole town knew that they had a hero. Would you like some oranges, Mr. Xiatian? Xiatian walked in the town, and all the townspeople looked at him kindly. Even the middle-aged women and uncles were looking at Xiatian with smiles on their faces. Xiatian helped them drive away the pirates and saved everyone on the island, which made them grateful to Xiatian from the bottom of their hearts. If Xiatian hadn't intervened, the town would have been devastated. Not only the townspeople, but also the merchants in this town and those passing by are full of gratitude to Xiatian. Because Xiatian protected their property, this alone made them grateful to Xiatian. Seeing so many people expressing their gratitude to him, Xiatian felt a little embarrassed. No, no. This is what I should do. Xiatian waved his hands quickly. This feeling is pretty good. Ellie and her 5 maids followed Charlotte and looked at everything around them with curiosity. Their previous kingdom was called a kingdom, but it was just a small island with a population of just over 10,000 people. Moreover, the island was barren and did not even have a decent port, which resulted in the island not even having any merchant ships. Of course it's not as prosperous as here. Mr. Xiatian! Mr. Xiatian! Xiatian walked into the port, and people around him bowed and greeted him. Xiatian also smiled and nodded. Xiatian walked into the harbor where 3 pirates' ships were docked. The pirates' flag above has been torn down. Looking at these 3 somewhat dilapidated pirates' ships, they are very small, only 50 meters long. Is there a shipbuilder in our town, Joss? Xiatian turned and asked Xiao Si. Boss. Our port is dedicated to serving the merchant ships. We have shipbuilders, of course, but they are not top-notch shipbuilders. They can only build small boats and do some repairs. Joss explained. Xiatian touched his chin after hearing this. He planned to go to sea when he turned 18, and by then he must have a better ship, otherwise he would have to go to sea like Luffy, sitting in a small wooden barrel, which was not the life he wanted to live. How much money do we have left in our account? How much will it cost if I want to build a ship? Xiatian asked Joss. He was still a little unclear about the prices in the pirates' world. Boss, that depends on how big the ship is. A ship under 50 meters will cost about 50 to 60 million belly, and one over 50 meters will cost about 100 million belly. If it's over 100 meters, our town is not able to build it yet. Of course, it also depends on the materials. If the materials are good, then it's normal for the price to double. Joss analyzed to Xiatian. Xiatian stroked his chin and listened to Joss's analysis. What is our current monthly income? Xiatian asked, and he found that he was still short of money. There is only 1 year left before I go out to sea, and I must build a boat that can sail in the second half of the Grand Line within this year. This month's income is about 3 million baileys. After deducting the expenses, there is about 2 million left. The bulk of this is for your food expenses. Joss said. When Xiatian heard that his food would cost almost 1 million, he looked at him in shock and asked him to give an explanation. Seeing the boss's puzzled look, Joss smiled bitterly. Boss, your daily meals are either sea kings or wild beasts from the mountains. These need to be hunted by hunters, and we go to buy them. This requires a lot of baileys, otherwise no one is willing to go to the sea or the mountains to hunt. After hearing what Joss said, Xiatian fell silent. He had to spend nearly 1 million on food every month. If he added the equipment for his training, he would not have much money left after spending this month. How could he build a ship? How about this, I'll take care of your meals from now on, you don't have to buy them anymore. Xiatian decided to go to the sea to hunt sea kings by himself. This could also give him some exercise, but it would be more dangerous. Otherwise, he would be bankrupted by himself sooner or later. Yes. Boss. Joss nodded. Renovate these 3 pirates' ships. They will be my fishing boats for hunting sea kings from now on. Hurry and renovate them. Xiatian said to Joss. Joss bowed slightly and responded. After seeing all this, Xiatian left the port. He needed training. Coming to the deserted beach, Xiatian stood in the sea with a sword in hand, facing the waves, waving his arms constantly. Just to break through the barrier in my heart. This training lasted for 5 months. For 5 months, Xiatian did nothing but swing his sword at the sea. I don't know how, but swinging the sword day after day actually made him famous. The sword flashed. Xiatian swung out a 10-meter-long flying slash. Xiatian was about to cry as he watched the 10-meter-long slash along the beach. After swinging the sword for a year and a half, he finally made a name for himself. Have I reached the level of a swordsman? My ability has almost reached the level of an ordinary vice admiral. Apart from not being able to perform armament haki, Xiatian believes that he can give it a try even if he meets the vice admiral. He has powerful strength, the swordsman's signature flying slash, and his observation haki that can cover an area of 1,000 miles. His observation haki can predict the future and read minds, as well as Conqueror's haki. However, Conqueror's haki has not been revealed since it was last released. However, Xiatian is not discouraged. He knows that sooner or later he will be able to control it. Now that he has mastered the flying slash, Xiatian is delighted. He held a long sword and slashed at the beach wantonly. Ha 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 ha. Looking at the entire beach that he had plowed, Xiatian could no longer contain his inner joy and laughed wildly on the beach. This scene was seen by 5 maids standing on the beach. They all looked at Charlotte with radiant eyes, their eyes full of admiration. Young master, you are so awesome. Right, sister. Irene said with admiration. Of course, Irene, the young master is of course the most powerful. Ellie said proudly. The other 3 people followed suit. Time passed quickly with the conversations of the 5 maids and Xiatian's repeated slashes. After Xiatian swung his sword again, he sheathed it. Back to the beach. Young master. Each of the 5 maids served Xiatian with towels and other items. Charlotte wiped the sweat off her face with a towel. Let's go. Go home. Xiatian handed the sword to Ella beside him and said. Yes. Young master. The 5 maids said coquettishly. After returning to his villa, Joss came over. Boss, there aren't many sea kings left in the kitchen. I need you to kill some. Joss said, looking at Xiatian. Okay. I got it. In the past 5 months, I have killed almost all the sea kings near this island. Let's search deeper tomorrow. After 5 months of hunting, almost all the nearby sea kings, or offshore kings, or slightly larger fish, had been killed by Xiatian. Chapter 10, Small Treasure Box Sea Circle Calendar 1480. This year Xiatian turned 18 and became an adult. The next morning, Xiatian took a dozen of his younger brothers and went out to sea on the 3 fishing boats converted from the pirates' ships. These dozen or so younger brothers are good at operating boats. After knowing that Xiatian was going out to sea to hunt sea kings, they all volunteered to join and operate the fishing boat for Xiatian. The fishing boat sailed out of the port and headed towards the unknown sea. This is the first time Xiatian has traveled so far. Watching the port quickly disappear from his sight, Xiatian gathered his thoughts and prepared to fight at any time. Captain, there's a ship ahead. When Xiatian was sailing on the sea, a pirate ship targeted them. Xiatian stood on the deck, closed his eyes and sensed with his sight. Suddenly, a ship appeared in his observation haki area. This aroused Xiatian's slight interest. Unexpectedly, we encountered a ship just 1 hour after going out to sea. I didn't know whether it was a pirate ship or a merchant ship. Just as Xiatian was thinking, a loud noise came from a distance. Xiatian opened his eyes and watched the shells coming towards his ship. However, the opponent's gunner's accuracy was a bit poor, and the shells fell around their own ship. But even so, the sailors on the ship were still panicked. Don't panic. I'm still here. Xiatian's voice was clearly heard by every sailor on the ship. A dozen sailors suppressed their panic and looked at Xiatian. You guys operate the ship and leave the pirates to me. After saying that, Xiatian jumped up and swung his fist towards a cannonball. Charlotte knew from his observation that the shell might hit the ship, so Xiatian blew it up with a punch in advance. Bang! With a loud bang, the bomb exploded in the air, and Xiatian landed on the deck unharmed. Boss is awesome! A dozen sailors roared in anger when they saw this scene. Xiatian smiled slightly. And the other side is the pirates. Captain, I'm afraid the other party is not easy to deal with. A sailor holding a telescope frowned after seeing Xiatian blow up the shell with his bare hands. What are you afraid of? We have so many brothers, how can we be afraid of a little devil? Pull the boat over. The pirate's captain pushed the lookout and ordered the helmsman. Yes. Captain. Watching the pirates approaching him and others, Xiatian smiled. He was originally worried that the other party would continue to rely on artillery shells to consume him, but in the end they passed the exam on their own. Don't panic, I'll go meet him. Xiatian jumped up and rushed towards the opponent's pirates group in the air. This is what Xiatian learned from Moonwalk in Marine 6 styles. Since he only knew some principles, Xiatian was unable to unleash the full power of Moonwalk and could only fly short distances and at low altitudes. But it is more than enough to deal with the pirates in front of him. Boy! Who are you? Captain Pirates looked at the imp who suddenly appeared on his ship with fear. I thought it was just a minor character, but it turned out to be a big enemy. You are pirates, right? He said while looking at the huge pirate's flag on top of the ship. Without waiting for the pirate's captain to speak, Xiatian rushed directly at the pirate's captain and punched him in the face. Bang! Captain Pirates was knocked heavily to the ground. Come on! The pirate's captain covered half of his face and pointed at Xiatian and said to the pirates under him. The pirate's captain was furious at Xiatian's sudden attack. Xiatian smiled slightly, looking at the many little pirates. He didn't even think about drawing his sword, but went forward with his fists raised. Bang bang bang! Xiatian quickly rushed into the crowd and knocked them to the ground one by one before they even had a chance to react. Almost all the pirates lying on the ground were dead, either with their chests smashed or their heads exploded, none of them were intact. Captain Pirates was so frightened when he saw this scene that he kicked his legs and backed away. Xiatian looked at him with bloody fists. He jumped in front of him without even giving him a chance to speak and punched him hard. Bang! The pirate's captain was killed instantly, his head was broken off. Looking at the headless corpse and the blood and flesh stuck on his body. When did I become so perverted, there's not a single one left alive. Xiatian said as he looked at the bodies on the deck. Then he waved towards the fishing boat he had and asked them to come over. When Xiatian rushed over, the sailors were already lying on the side of the boat, watching their boss show off. Seeing the boss waving, a dozen sailors quickly operated the boat and moved over. Boss! Boss! Several sailors jumped over and their legs trembled when they saw the corpses on this deck. Pile all these corpses together and use them to lure the sea kings. Xiatian commanded. He didn't want to wander around in this boundless ocean. Instead of looking for them himself, he might as well let them come to him. Yes. Yes. Several sailors said tremblingly. Xiatian walked into the cabin to see if he could find any treasure. After going around in circles, I found nothing except a treasure chest in the captain's room. Look at this treasure chest. Is there a devil fruit in here? Xiatian said as he looked at the treasure chest with trembling hands. After all, the size of this treasure chest is about the size of a devil fruit. Maybe I'm really lucky and encounter devil fruit on my first trip to the sea. Looking at the lock on it, Xiatian pulled it open with force. Open it tremblingly. What's this? Charlotte looked at the drawing in his hand in confusion. Is it some treasure map? Xiatian looked at the route maps in the picture. Maybe it really is a treasure map. Could this be the place where the captain of the pirates hid his treasure? But where is this place? Xiatian also didn't know where this nautical chart came from. Just accept it for now and see if you can find anything later. After putting away the blueprints, Xiatian took out a few more bounties, which contained their bounty. Tisk! The pirates with only 11 million Baileys dare to be so arrogant. Looking at the number on the bounty, Xiatian said disdainfully. After searching the captain's room, we found nearly 6 million Baileys. With the money in hand, I prepared to go looking again. Boss, help! There are so many sea kings. Suddenly Xiatian heard his younger brother's voice. A lot of sea kings? How many are those? Xiatian's sight and hearing color spread. Hiss! This is amazing to see. How many sea kings are there? Did I disturb the sea king's nest? Xiatian rushed out of the captain's room in a hurry. Look at the sea kings all around this pirate's ship. Quick! Throw the bodies over there and lure these sea kings away. Get out of here quickly. Xiatian is an anxious commander. Many sailors were operating the ship in a panic. Boss, the sea kings are blocking the road. The helmsman saw the sea kings ahead and roared in despair. Hateful! Xiatian drew the long sword from his waist. Xiatian stood at the bow and looked at the sea kings, each hundreds of meters in size. How come it attracts so many sea kings? Xiatian looked at the sea kings in front of him with some disbelief. Boss! The sea kings are attacking us! At the stern, several younger brothers were shouting in fear. Xiatian frowned, didn't think about anything else, and rushed to the stern. A huge tail was seen smashing towards the ship. Xiatian rushed forward without thinking. He punched the Sea King's tail with all his strength. Instantly, a huge hole opened at the tail of Sea King's. This was caused by Xiatian's punch. Moo! The Sea Kings, whose heads were 10 meters long, cried out in pain. And this call triggered a chain reaction. 7 or 8 Sea Kings surrounding the Xiatian's ship attacked together. Under the induction of observation haki, Xiatian felt the anger of these Sea Kings one after another. Damn it! Why did these Sea Kings run out to the sea instead of staying at the bottom of the sea? Xiatian didn't think that just a few dozen corpses would be enough to attract these dozen 100-meter-long Sea Kings. Seeing 7 or 8 Sea Kings attacking at the same time, Xiatian's expression changed drastically. Hold on to the handrails beside you. Xiatian roared loudly to remind the people on the boat to be careful. Xiatian, on the other hand, dived into the sea and rushed towards the Sea Kings. Ride on the ocean on moonwalk. He rushed to the head of a Sea King that was about 70 meters in size, drew out his sword, and swung it vigorously. The 10-meter-long flying slash hit the head of the Sea King. Roar! Roar! The huge slash instantly cut through the Sea King's body, leaving a 10-meter-long cut from head to tail. A large amount of blood splashed on the sea. The injured Sea Kings rolled their huge bodies in pain, slapping the waves. Xiatian saw that Sea Kings was struggling so violently that he didn't dare to let him continue to struggle. He opened the observation haki to the fullest and saw that someone on the boat had fallen into the sea because of the waves. Xiatian swung backhand again. Another 10-meter-long slash struck the injured Sea Kings. This shark-like Sea Kings completely lost the ability to resist. Xiatian's observation haki sensed the disappearance of Sea King's breath, and without stopping, he continued to moonwalk on the Sea King's corpse. Go save that unfortunate guy. Help! Help! Gilyalu! Help! The young man was swept into the sea, and because of the waves he was swept into the sea from time to time, he frantically called for help. Xiatian's legs bounced up, and he rushed to the side of the younger brother who fell into the water in an instant. He stretched out his hand to pick up the younger brother and threw him onto the deck. Hold on to the handrails, don't let go, wait for me to deal with these Sea Kings. Xiatian yelled. After hearing Xiatian's voice, everyone on the boat held on to the handrails tightly with nervous expressions. Thanks to Xiatian's efforts in saving people, the Sea Kings had already swam to the pirates' ship. Xiatian was very anxious. This is the boat that Lao Zi likes. This boat is obviously still new. After we get back and do some minor modifications, it will become a good boat. We can't let Sea Kings destroy it like this. Xiatian stepped on the deck and instantly jumped onto the head of the Sea Kings that approached the ship first, and stabbed it fiercely with a sword. The sword energy instantly entered the body, madly destroying the Sea King's brains. Endless sword energy tore everything apart, and the Sea Kings died instantly. Xiatian continued to rush towards the other Sea Kings without hesitation. The instantaneous death of two companions made the Sea Kings realize that Xiatian was the threat to them. One by one, they gave up besieging the ship and surrounded Xiatian instead. Xiatian stood on the bodies of the dead Sea Kings, holding a sword and looking at them. The two sides were at a stalemate. But the stalemate didn't last long, as a huge octopus waved its tentacles and attacked Charlotte. Xiatian dodged quickly. He didn't want to fight this octopus that was 100 meters in size. If Xiatian guessed correctly, this octopus was the boss of this group of Sea Kings. After seeing the octopus taking action, the other Sea Kings also started to move. But this gives Xiatian room to maneuver. The Sea Kings surrounding them were very large, and Xiatian's height of less than 2 meters actually became an advantage. Xiatian kept jumping on the heads of the Sea Kings, attracting all kinds of attacks to hit their own people. And Xiatian would occasionally swing a flying slash. In just the time it took to drink tea, Xiatian chopped 2 more to death. Roar! Ah! Woo! The Sea Kings surrounding Xiatian all roared in anger. But there were also voices of panic. Some small Sea Kings have already dived into the sea and disappeared under Xiatian's observation haki. There are only 3 Sea Kings left on the sea. Among them is the Octopus Sea Kings. The originally turbulent sea strangely returned to its calm. Xiatian was also alert and ready to fight back at any time. The 4 ships following Xiatian had already been washed away by the waves to a place far away from the battlefield. The crew members were also watching the battle in Xiatian through binoculars. Xiatian swallowed. I feel a little uneasy. Suddenly a scene appeared in my mind. Xiatian hurriedly fled from here on moonwalk. At the moment Xiatian took action, the octopus facing Xiatian stretched out its huge tentacle and smashed towards the place where Xiatian was originally standing. There was a loud bang. In an instant, a large splash of water was blown up within 100 meters of the sea surface where Xiatian was standing, and there were streaks of electric light in the splash of water. Xiatian, who was jumping in the air, was so frightened when he saw this scene that he broke out in a cold sweat. It's not because of the octopus tentacles. What Xiatian didn't expect was that the octopus's tentacles actually had electric shock capabilities. I looked at the original Sea King's body, which had been electrocuted and was completely charred, and it still emitted a burst of meaty aroma. What kind of Sea Kings are these? They even have electric shocks. Why aren't they in anime? Xiatian muttered in shock. Luckily, I witnessed this scene during observation haki, otherwise I might have really died here today. Xiatian said with lingering fear. Then came deep anger. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the giant octopus that was staring at him, then raised his hands and waved them. A slash wave over 10 meters long slashed towards the octopus. The octopus's huge body is not fast enough to dodge. He could only raise his tentacles to protect himself. When the slash wave hit the tentacle, it instantly cut the tentacle in half. Ah! A huge roar was heard. A large amount of electric current instantly emitted from the octopus body and spread out in all directions. This made the 2 nearby animals stunned, and they quickly fled away from it. While it was screaming in pain, Xiatian rushed towards the octopus in midair with a sword in hand and swung it. The octopus was split in half from top to bottom in an instant. The giant Sea King's octopus died instantly, and countless electric currents spread out from its body. There was not even a place for Xiatian to stay. You can only step on its body. The other two sea kings died instantly when they saw their boss. They also flicked their tails and dived into the sea, disappearing instantly into Xiatian's observation haki. Xiatian stepped on the octopus corpse floating on the sea and looked at the sea surface flashing with electric light around him. 5 sea kings were killed, and the rest ran away. Looking at the messy sea, Xiatian sat down on the ground. The continuous high-intensity bursts consumed a lot of his physical strength and were very tiring. Xiatian sat on the octopus's body and did not call his little brother to pick him up, but to recover his strength. Moreover, the sea surface was full of electric currents emitted by the octopuses, so Xiatian didn't dare to ask them to bring the boat over. After about half an hour, the current on the sea surface finally dissipated a little. Xiatian then waved towards the 4 ships. The 4 lookouts who had been observing immediately saw Xiatian's order. Suddenly, a boat came out from among the 4 ships and slowly sailed towards Xiatian. It wasn't long before Xiatian jumped on board. Quick! Drag up the bodies of these sea kings and leave this sea area immediately. Xiatian took command immediately after getting on board. He was afraid that if he stayed here for too long, those large sea kings would come over. He is already struggling to deal with those 100-meter ones, so if it comes to the 1000-meter ones, Xiatian can just give up. Yes. Boss. More than a dozen crew members on the ship threw out hooks, hooked the body of sea kings, and then steered the ship towards their 3 ships. There were only a dozen people on the 4 boats, so the movement was a bit slow. After the 4 ships were connected together, they towed the 4 sea kings towards their island. There were originally 5 of them, but one was electrocuted by the octopus and turned into charcoal. Xiatian didn't want to drag it back to eat. The 4 ships soon left the area. And the sea area returned to peace. As if nothing had happened. The navigator is watching the route. At this time, Xiatian was eating food at the dining table. He needs to replenish his energy. This time they hunted down 4 sea kings, but they did not achieve their intended goal. However, considering that the sea kings might make a comeback, Xiatian decided to go back. And although the number of sea kings hunted this time seems small, their sizes are indeed huge. They are all about 100 meters long, enough for Xiatian to eat for a month. After a month, Xiatian brought people here to hunt. But overall, this overseas trip was very successful. We have seized a very new pirate's ship and more than 10 million heads. We can send people to the Marine G8 branch to exchange them for the bounty, which is also a considerable income. The boat soon arrived at the island from which they set out. Looking at the black spot on the sea horizon, they all knew that was their home. The moment they saw the island, many young people who were going out to sea for the first time burst into tears. They almost died this time. If it weren't for their boss, their bodies would have been thrown into the ocean long ago. For a moment, my eyes were full of admiration when I looked at Xiatian. Xiatian also felt the emotions of many of his younger brothers, but he didn't say anything and continued to eat the food he had prepared in advance. The ship soon docked in front of the port. Countless townspeople, dock workers, and merchants from the port gathered close to watch. They were either wondering where the 4th ship came from, or were surprised that there were 4 huge monsters towing behind the 4 ships. That's right, in the eyes of these townspeople, the nearly 100-meter-long sea kings are giants. If merchant ships or fishing boats see these sea kings, they will basically be destroyed and people on board will die. This is the first time I saw someone actually hunt sea kings. When the boat docked, Xiatian was the first to jump off. Joss, who received the news, was already standing on the shore with more than 20 big men in black suits. Behind Jose, 5 beautiful maids including Ellie were standing respectfully. After Xiatian got off the boat, Joss walked up instantly. "Boss, how was your trip? Did you gain a lot? Are you back so early?" Joss asked, hunching slightly. Xiatian was picking his teeth with a toothpick and pointing behind him. "Not bad. Although it was a bit dangerous, we managed to escape danger. We captured 4 sea kings of about 100 meters in length in a pirate's ship. You can take the head of the pirate's captain later and exchange it for some bounty at the nearby G8 branch," Xiatian said as he walked towards the shore. Joss, on the other hand, quietly followed Xiatian and took notes. After Xiatian finished giving his instructions, Joss spoke. "Okay, boss. I'll arrange for someone to do this in a moment." Now, because of Xiatian, the Black Tiger gang has developed very rapidly and has a lot more members. Joss doesn't have to do some things himself. "Yeah. Go prepare some more food, I'm going to take a shower," Xiatian said again. Joss nodded and looked at the queen, and the 5 maids following behind him immediately understood and walked towards the villa first. Along the way, there were the sounds of townspeople and merchants greeting each other. Xiatian is used to it now. "Mr. Xiatian. The mayor wants to see you." Just as Xiatian was about to go home, a man in a security uniform suddenly appeared and looked at Xiatian respectfully and spoke. Xiatian knew this man and often dealt with him because of the Black Tiger gang. The mayor. Xiatian became a little confused when he heard the name. Why does the mayor want to see me? Although he was confused, Xiatian still followed the captain of the security team. He also wanted to see what the mayor was doing. You know, last time he killed the pirates who came to sabotage him, he was not received by the mayor, but today he was called over by the mayor, and no one knew why? After waving to Joss, Xiatian followed the security captain. Not long after, Xiatian was taken to a cafe by the security team captain. Xiatian walked in and did not see the mayor, but only a middle-aged man covered in jewels. After the security team captain brought Xiatian to the middle-aged man, he bent down and walked out. Who are you? Xiatian frowned and looked at the middle-aged man, feeling a little displeased. His intuition told him that this person was not a good person. Ha ha ha, I've heard that there is a young hero on our Rafa Island. This is our first meeting. My name is Robert Herant, and I'm the new mayor of Rafa Island. Nice to meet you, the hero of Rafa Island. Robert Herant stood up and stretched out his hand to shake hands with Xiatian. Xiatian was also stunned when he saw the other party's outstretched hand, and then he shook it. The two sides shook hands. Xiatian felt the voice on the other side of his mind. This kid is the hero of Rafa Island. Isn't he too young? I hope he won't hinder my plan. This is what Xiatian felt when he touched the other person's hand. Is there really a ghost? Xiatian was alert. Hello, Mr. Herant. Where did the last mayor go? Xiatian greeted the other person, still holding his hand. Helen wanted to pull her hand away, but after trying to pull it free she failed, so she pouted and let him continue holding it. Is this kid a gay? Robert Heron secretly complained in his heart. But his face showed nothing. Damn, you called me gay. Xiatian was feeling very upset. The previous mayor retired and gave his name to me because he was too old. I don't know where he is now. I heard that he seems to be traveling. Helen pretended to think. Damn it. Why does this kid have so many questions? How do I know where that old guy went? The damn old guy cheated Lao Zi out of 400 million Baileys and ran away. Lao Zi hasn't found him yet. Helen cursed inwardly. Xiatian breathed a sigh of relief. He thought the old mayor was killed by this man named Herant. If that was the case, he would at least avenge him. Who made him receive favors from the old mayor when he was a child? Then I wonder what the mayor wants to talk to me about. Xiatian continued to ask. Haha. It's nothing. I just arrived and wanted to see the heroes of our Rafa Island. I also want to get to know them. Please take care of me in the future. Helen and Xiatian shook hands, and an expression of wanting to meet their idol appeared on their faces. If Xiatian didn't know how to read minds, he would have been fooled by this fat and big-eared BD humph. Lao Zi is a subordinate of the shipping king Umis. He came to the second half of the Grand Line specifically to open up the situation. This island is our checkpoint for advancement. Shipping king? Xiatian heard the name of the shipping king in his heart. This is one of the 6 famous kings of the underground dark world in later generations. They have their eyes on this place. This is not a good thing. Seeing Xiatian frowned, Helen was stunned for a moment. Is there anything wrong with what I said, Mr. Xiatian? Seeing Xiatian frowning, Helen asked. Nothing, nothing. I just thought of something and got distracted. Xiatian smiled, let go of the other person's hand and said. Oh. Is Mr. Xiatian busy? Seeing Xiatian let go of his hand, Helen hurriedly took it back, then sat down and asked. Xiatian also sat opposite. Nothing, just some trivia. That's good. If you have any problems in the future, just come to me. I will definitely do it if I can. Helen patted her chest with her ring-covered hands and said. Okay then, I'll trouble you from now on, Mr. Mayor. Xiatian said. Hearing the words Mr. Mayor, Helen smiled and raised her glass. I will hold a banquet in 2 days, and invite Mr. Xiatian, the hero of Rafa Island, to come and show our support. Helen looked at Xiatian and invited. No problem, it's just a small matter. Xiatian now also knows what the mayor is up to. I just want to turn this island into a transit station in the shipping route of the shipping king, and I want to ask Xiatian for help. With Xiatian, the local boss, around, Helen's work can be carried out quickly. The two clinked glasses and chatted for a while before going their separate ways. Xiatian left the cafe. Who would have thought that a cafe also offers red wine? Xiatian, a little tipsy, returned to the villa. It's funny to say, after 4 years of traveling through time, the first time I drank alcohol was in a coffee shop. This is also a kind of wonder. Young master. Boss. Seeing Xiatian staggering towards them, the 5 mates and Joss immediately ran over and supported Xiatian. This immediately sobered Xiatian, who was originally a little tipsy. Looking at the 2 mates supporting him, Xiatian felt a little hot in his heart. Are you home yet? Xiatian looked at her villa with a red face, then ignored Joss's support and walked towards the room holding Ellie and Ella. This made the other 3 mates blush and made Joss very embarrassed. You 3 stand guard outside the door. Joss said to the remaining 3 maids, then turned and left. After all, as a man, he couldn't be present at what was happening next. 3 red-faced maids were left outside the room. The next day, the sun was high in the sky. Xiatian woke up slowly. Ah! Xiatian sat up, touched his head and shook it. Feeling a little dizzy. I drank too much yesterday. When Xiatian woke up, he found Aili and Ella lying beside him. Xiatian, who probably knew what was going on, originally planned to leave first. Although Xiatian's movement was small, it still woke up Ellie and Ella. Young master. As soon as Aili and Ella saw Xiatian wake up, they immediately stood up from the bed. Looking at Ellie and Ella standing in front of him, Xiatian's face flushed instantly. Ellie and Ella also realized what was happening and their faces turned red with embarrassment. Get up! Get up! Xiatian stuttered, then quickly found his clothes, put them on, and walked out quickly. When I came out of the room, I saw 3 maids standing outside the door, holding toiletries in their hands. Take it in and let them wash up. After Xiatian finished speaking, he left without looking back. Left with the 3 dazed maids. Then the 3 maids looked at the 2 women lying on the bed with envy. Xiatian walked out of the villa alone without letting anyone follow him. He also had a sword on his waist. He needs to calm down. What happened last night was still fresh in his mind, and he needed to calm down and accept this reality. As a virgin who was over 30 years old in his previous life, he was a little confused by the sudden appearance of 2 women. He drew out his sword and vented his anger on the beach. For a moment, the beach was filled with sword energy. A dozen deep furrows were plowed on the beach. However, these gullies were soon washed away by the incoming sea water. Xiatian casually swung out a few more sword energies before slowly relaxing himself. There is a feeling of sage time. Then Xiatian's eyes narrowed again. With Xiatian at the center of the circle, a momentum suddenly burst out from Xiatian. This is Conqueror's Haki. After the last outbreak, Xiatian never used it again. It's not that he didn't want to use it, but that he couldn't control it. Unexpectedly, he was released again by accident this time. Xiatian quickly focused his mind and felt the Conqueror's Haki in his body. I want to remember this feeling so I can control it. A long time. When Conqueror's Haki was about to disappear, Xiatian's eyes suddenly opened wide. An invisible aura once again erupted with Xiatian as the center, and this time the Conqueror's Haki was even more violent than the previous one. The waves were shaken and ripples appeared. The coconut leaves on the beach were also shaking. Xiatian laughed as he looked at the sea fish that was stunned by his conquerors. Ha ha ha! I'm such a genius! Xiatian thought for a moment and instantly put away Conqueror's Haki. The surroundings returned to calm. Only the fish that were washed unconscious on the beach by the waves knew what had just happened. Ha 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 ha, I finally have control over the Conqueror's Haki. I'm one step closer to becoming a strong person. Xiatian swung the sword in his hand wantonly. The sword energy and slashing attacks appeared continuously on the beach. It seemed that the length of the sword energy had also become a little larger. After observing this scene, I couldn't help but feel happy. Time passed slowly during Xiatian's training. I had originally planned to go to sea when I turned 18, but plans couldn't keep up with changes and Xiatian's ship was not ready yet, which was very frustrating. We can't just let Xiatian sit in the barrel like Luffy and go out to sea. Xiatian didn't want to. And the sea has not been peaceful in the past few months. Because of the rampage of rocks pirates at sea, there are now a large number of pirates on the sea. Nowadays, a pirate group will appear at the port and rob people almost every month. Instead, these people were killed by Xiatian in exchange for bounties. Every time, the bounty was collected by Xiatian's subordinates, and no one paid attention to Xiatian. And because Xiatian cleaned out the pirates, this island is very safe. In addition, this place became a transit point for sea transportation to Umis, and it became prosperous. The population on the island has gradually increased, from more than 1,005 years ago to more than 7,000 now, which is several times more. All these people had fled from the second half of the New World, and some were rescued from Xiatian. And ever since Harant, the subordinate of the shipping king, witnessed Xiatian's method of killing pirates, his attitude instantly changed when facing Xiatian. He would discuss everything with Xiatian, which made Xiatian very annoyed. Finally, he pushed Joss out and asked him to discuss it with him. And because the number of pirates is increasing, you can't let Charlotte play all the pirates' games by herself. In the second half of last year, Xiatian picked out more than 50 talented subordinates, and used observation Haki's perception ability to see that they were all his die-hard fans. Xiatian decided to set aside one day every week to train them. These people were either Xiatian's subordinates or slaves rescued by Xiatian. They all trained with Xiatian and are now experts. Usually 5 or 6 pirates can't get in. Even some people have learned 1 or 2 moves from the Marine 6 styles. In addition to them, his 5 little maids also received training. Ai Li mainly learned medicine and the development of fruits. Ellen not only mastered 3 of the 6 styles, but also performed flying slashes with the sword, becoming a swordsman. Irene trained in archery. Feng and Ling had excellent talents in physical skills and mastered 4 of the 6 styles. Because they were twins, they had excellent tacit understanding, and it was difficult to defeat them, even those who were stronger than them. These people will be Xiatian's help when going out to sea. Another group of people were also arranged by Xiatian to learn some navigation knowledge. Xiatian asked Helen to help solve this problem. He is a subordinate of the shipping king. He must know a lot of navigators, doctors, and shipwrights. The navigator was the most important, so Xiatian asked Joss to select a few of his confidants to learn from the navigator, and also recruited a few doctors for Xiatian's dozen maids to learn from. During these few months, Xiatian rescued many slaves who had been trafficked, including many female slaves. Many of them were homeless, so Xiatian arranged for them to serve him. Not to mention the boatmen and cooks. Everything is ready on this island. When the time comes, I can just give the order and gather more than a dozen boatmen and chefs in an instant. Navigator, cook, and boatman are the 3 essential talents for going to sea. Xiatian has all of these. Only the boat remained. Originally, Xiatian only planned to build a ship of more than 50 meters. Because the cost is not enough, but with the increase of pirates, Xiatian's bailey is also rising rapidly. Now Xiatian doesn't care about the protection fees. When Heron learned that Xiatian was building a ship, he also expressed his support. He knew that Xiatian was no ordinary person. He has killed more than 1,000 pirates this year alone. He also reported the matter to the king of shipping. The shipping king immediately expressed his interest in Xiatian. I collected Xiatian's information and found out that Xiatian was only 18 years old. I sighed in my heart again. A monster appeared. Then he asked Helen to better protect Xiatian, but he could not reveal his identity. In this way, Heron supported everything Xiatian wanted. If they needed navigators, he would recruit them for Xiatian. If they needed materials, he would directly get the best materials for Xiatian. Although it is not the top-grade Adam's treasure tree, it is also the best material besides the Adam's treasure tree. When Xiatian saw that he already had the funds, materials, and boatmen, he simply waved his hand. Build a huge ship that is 100 meters long, 20 meters wide and 30 meters high. The ship is now being built at the port and it is estimated that it will be completed in about a year. There is no way, there are too few boatmen. There are only about 7,000 people on the entire island, and there are only about 70 boatmen. Among them, only about 20 people built ships for Xiatian. Xiatian is not in a hurry. He has mastered armament haki. Nowadays, every day I either train my younger brothers or practice armament haki. Life is quite fulfilling. As for how he practiced armament haki, it all started with a group of pirates 3 months ago. A big pirate with a bounty of 100 million suddenly appeared at the port of Rafa Island. Xiatian instantly sensed the other party's deep malice. Xiatian didn't waste any words and started a flying slash as soon as they met. The 30-meter-long flying slash instantly traveled hundreds of meters and hit the pirate's ship that was heading towards its port. I thought that this group of pirates would be killed by me in an instant, but unexpectedly, a man suddenly jumped out in front of the pirate's ship and blocked my attack with his fists. Although he was also injured, he still managed to block it successfully, which made Xiatian a little interested. Allow the pirates on the other side to dock their ship at the port. However, Xiatian also ordered everyone in the port to evacuate in advance, leaving him alone to face the pirates. This group of pirates live up to their name. When the ship was still dozens of meters away from the port, shells were fired one after another, bombarding the port. But Xiatian did not take these shells seriously. He waved his sword casually, and all the shells exploded in the air without leaving a single one. Under Xiatian's observation, all the shells fell into the sea. Just as Xiatian was waiting for the opponent's attack, he suddenly felt a hint of coldness, which made Xiatian confused. It's autumn now and there are still 2 months before winter. Why do I feel cold? Chapter 15, Armament Haki. A chill blew towards the port. Xiatian stared at the approaching ship with a nervous expression. He could already feel the chill coming from the pirate's ship in front of him. Xiatian knew without thinking that there must be demon fruit power on the other side. Sure enough, as we approached the port, a thin layer of ice suddenly formed on the sea surface, but it was not thick. Could it be the Logia devil fruit frozen fruit? Xiatian guessed secretly in his heart. Calculating the time, Aokiji Admiral in the future has not eaten the devil fruit yet. Could it be that this pirate's captain is the previous frozen fruit user? If that's the case, then it's troublesome. I don't know how to armament haki. As the pirate's ship approaches, the pirates on the ship jump down with long knives and muskets in hand. The last one to jump down was the captain who had previously blocked Xiatian's attack. The pirate wearing a captain's hat saw that there was only a handsome young man holding a long sword standing in front of him in the port. Kid. You were the one who launched that slash just now. This made Xiatian even more cautious. Yes, it's me. Pirates are not welcome here. Xiatian took a step forward and said. After hearing Xiatian's words, Captain Pirates was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Kid, you are kidding, right? How can a little kid like you swing the swordsman's slash? Did you just wake up? As Captain Pirates finished his words, the 50 or 60 pirates around also laughed. That's hilarious, Captain. This brat even said that pirates are not welcome here. We pirates can go wherever we want. It's his turn to decide. Seeing so many pirates making fun of themselves, Xiatian wasn't angry either. With a wave of hand, the 30-meter-long sword energy flew towards the pirates who were laughing at him. Bump! The pirates who were laughing at Xiatian shut up. Because just in a moment, more than 30 of their companions were killed by a single blow. Gulp! I don't know who swallowed, but it was unusually clear in this quiet environment. Shib! Captain, you are truly a swordsman. After seeing Xiatian's slashing blow, the remaining pirates hid behind the captain and looked at Xiatian nervously. A hole! I'm not blind. The pirate's captain also saw the slash that Xiatian swung. Frowned. The pirate's captain stepped forward. How about you join our frost pirates? If you join, I will forgive you for what you did before. How about that? Captain Pirates looked at Xiatian and recruited him. After hearing these words suddenly, Xiatian was stunned. Then he burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha, who do you think you are? How dare you recruit Laozi? Xiatian suddenly burst out his conqueror's haki and spoke wildly. An invisible aura erupted with Xiatian as the center, sweeping towards the pirates. Bad luck! Muffled sounds came from behind Captain Pirates. Captain Pirates looked behind him. His own crew members fell to the ground one after another. This is actually Conqueror's haki. Captain Pirates said in astonishment. He didn't expect that the boy opposite him actually had a talent that only appears once in a million. This boy is a natural-born king. Thinking of this, Captain Pirates gritted his teeth. Since he had already offended him, he could not let him go. He did not believe that he could not beat a little devil. Thinking of this, Captain Pirate's eyes revealed murderous intent. White smoke rose from his fists. A burst of cold air came out. Kid, go to hell. The pirate's captain jumped and rushed towards Xiatian. This start made Xiatian very familiar with shaving. This pirates actually knows how to shave like in Marine 6 styles. Although surprised, Xiatian was not panicked at all. Holding the long sword, he engaged in a head-on collision with the pirate's captain. Clang! This is armament haki. The long sword and the pirate's captain's fist collided, creating violent sparks. Charlotte recognized the layer of black gas covering the other person's hands at a glance. Ha ha ha! You have good eyesight, kid. This is armament haki. Laozi is the pirate's frost Leonard Icewind with a bounty of 150 million berries. You are lucky to die in my hands. Leonard Icewind shouted wildly. Xiatian was unmoved. Because his attention was all on Leonard Icewind's other words, cold? Isn't his fruit frozen fruit but cold fruit? If it's not frozen fruit, then what am I afraid of? Think of this. Xiatian forced Leonard Icewind back with one sword, and then swept across with another sword. A 10-meter-long sword energy flew towards Leonard Bingfeng. Bump! Leonard Icewind's arm was covered with a layer of armament haki to block Xiatian's sword energy, but was also cut by Xiatian's sword energy. Ha ha ha! Xiatian couldn't help but burst out laughing. He wants to capture this person alive and obtain the training method of armament haki. Now his physique is definitely sufficient, the only thing missing is armament haki. He still hasn't figured out the method of practicing armament haki, and now the arrival of Leonard Icewind just makes up for his shortcomings. Thinking of this, Xiatian became very excited. Conqueror's haki, observation haki, Conqueror's haki is just missing the armament color. The excited Xiatian swung his sword and pressed Leonard Icewind attacks. Leonard Icewind was not given any chance to get close. The other party is demon fruit power. Xiatian was stupid enough to fight him hand to hand. Damn it! Damn little devil! Leonard Icewind was made extremely embarrassed by these sword energies. His armament haki had not been trained to the point where it covered his entire body, so how could he defend against the overwhelming sword energy? Soon he was slashed in the chest by a sword energy. Leonard Icewind hurriedly used his fruit ability to cover his wounds, freezing his bleeding wound. Xiatian stopped releasing sword energy, not because he had used it up, but because he was afraid that if he continued to chop, he would be killed accidentally. Then who would he find to practice his armament haki? Leonard Bingfeng also became very anxious when he saw that he was no match for the little devil on the opposite side. I looked behind me and saw that all the crew members were lying down. I realized that I couldn't run away even if I wanted to. For a moment, I felt completely hopeless. The look he gave Xiatian was filled with despair. But then he raised his fist and launched a desperate charge towards Xiatian, hoping that a miracle would happen. Unfortunately, the goddess of luck did not favor him. Xiatian easily cut off both of his arms. Xiatian also cut his hamstrings. Ah! Leonard Icewind let out the most painful roar he had ever heard, a roar that even Xiatian could not bear. Xiatian knew that it was because of observation Haki that he actually sympathized with him. He shook his head, clearing the emotions from his mind, and looked at the other person. Looking at Leonard Icewind who has become a disabled person. Xiatian smiled. Armament Haki, here I come.